All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. And this is take number 2 on this video. I just went through the whole thing, realized I was not recording the screen. So let's go, round 2. This will be fun. This is a commercial shot by Jason McCormick, I think it is. And it is really good. Lots of frameworky stuff in here. We're going to talk about one specific scene, which is exterior, always challenging. Multiple shots exterior in the same location, always tricky. And as we scroll through this, you can see this is right in my wheelhouse, really. Anything to do with garages, I am in. And shooting in garages is not easy. Here we go. We got people. They're walking by. Everyone's having fun. We're selling things on Facebook, making cash. You know, you can always tell the person trying to swindle the other person. And this is the scene that we're going to be talking about in the end. And you get the gist, right? Beautifully done. Nice looking images. Lots of frameworky stuff in here. Should we do the garage? In the last video, I did the garage. I don't know how good it was, but I will say if you are a listener of the podcast, you will remember that I went through a garage stage about 2 years ago where I probably did 6 or 7 commercials back to back to back in garages. And they're always tricky because directors or agencies, they'll always write weird angles inside these garages. Really, you only have 2 angles. And it's because you have so much light, no light inside and so much light outside, right? You can see there's a little bit of something toppy in here just with that reflection. It could be from the ground back up, but anyway, there's a little bit of something, right? But then as we open this up, really the only way that you're metering for the shot or balancing for the shot is you set the level of the sky that you want, right? Let's make that pen just a little bit bigger like that. So really we're setting for the sky level, right? And that's this over here. And then everything else just sort of falls where it does. Now this is an easy shot to get. This one, if you're gonna go garage, this is the easiest shot to get. Garage door opening, looking out. And you don't really see that much garage, so you see how dark it is inside, because it's the values in between, just out here, if someone's standing out here and someone's standing out here, to balance those two, especially in a space like a garage that are usually small and cramped and low ceilings and tight, it's really hard to do it well. And then the next shot, when we come out, they come up with a nice little solution here for this, but see how dark it is in there? If you started this shot with her all the way in there and then say wanted to make it out to here, she's gonna be really, really dark the whole time. So you have to expose for in there and then choose to bring her out to here or start the shot where they do, which is here. Start the shot just there with that little fake duck that she does. Fake duck to outside, right? Now that's easy because the exposure stays the same the entire shot. What is not easy is someone starting all the way in there and walking all the way out. Because now you have tons and tons of level, even from an overcast sky like this, from ambient, that is coming down, and there's not a lot getting in there. And if you're gonna try and lift the level inside of the garage, well now you've made it really challenging for yourself because it's hard to do. To make room tone look just like it's coming out of nowhere is probably the most difficult skill for lighting for cinematographers, right? That is like that's like the black belt of cinematography. And let's be honest, right? You're not that good, I'm not that good. Why make it harder for ourselves? Let's just make it easier through coverage. But this is something where you're gonna like talk to the director and be like, hey, what about we start here and we only make it out here? And they're like, no, I really want her to start all the way in there. And then you just, what are you gonna do? Okay, let's shoot it. It'll take 4 hours to set up and it will look horrible, but we're gonna give it a go. Anyway, no, you don't say that. You say, yeah, let's go. Okay, so this is a nice little fix, right? That fake bump and then out, and then really you're just exposing for skin levels out here. Once you're here, you can get more shape out of this shot if you neg behind the camera, or say somebody does wanna start all the way inside the garage. What you have to do is you gotta get a big source from really far away so it feels big, soft, like sky, and just push it straight in. And hopefully push it between the camera, the talent and the background wall in the garage, like in that gap, as opposed to just blasting it right at this person, because then it'll just fill it all in and it won't look very nice. But easy answer, just do it this way. Exactly how they've done it. Shoot out with the door open, and then like you don't want to shoot in on the door open, right? Because then you're going to start on the door, which is getting front lit from the ambient sky. Then you open up and it's completely dark in there, and this whole thing will be front lit. So this is like backlight everything, even garage doors. Okay, we go from there. And the great part about this commercial is, all this stuff, backlight, right? Shooting into the shadow, little tiny edge. This is what makes this interesting, right? Without the down buildings, this little hotspot just becomes nothing, and you're not able to pick out the things that we want to look at. This is like your classic, well, why do we shoot backlight outdoors? Because of this little tiny transfer here of light to dark and all of the dark buildings in the background. That's because the sun is over here somewhere, right? You can see the shadow from the pole back here, from this pole going this way. So the sun is somewhere up here. And if we clear this, let's go full screen. If we go full screen here, this is exactly what we're looking for. Down, areas of interest, and then not competing against other hot elements, right? Look how far down this guy is compared to him. Now he's getting a little bit of bounce off of this, right? He's getting sun off of this. But say you wanted to frame more up here, like this was our lead character in a movie and he's walking across the street rather than it being all about the thing that he's selling. If you wanted to get more shape here on a walk and talk, it's real easy to do. You could just have a walking neg behind the camera, like an 8x8 or something, especially in this size of shot, just here to cut off any ambient return that you don't want. The other thing that you would do is, a lot of people, if you say, hey, to the team, all right, guys, we're gonna get together, here we go, we need a little bit of some level coming back this way at our man, just a little bit of fill, a little bit of wrap, the grips or the electrics, wherever you end up working and however they do it with the teams, they're gonna go away and they're gonna bring back a little 4x4 poly. Now, you know, if you've watched this channel for any extended amount of time, I don't like the 4x4 poly for anything where it isn't absolutely necessary to have that small a size, because the tiny size makes the source feel tiny. And there's no tiny sources in nature outside. It just doesn't work, right? You want broad, big, soft to feel natural and to blend in easy. And the other downside of that is they will always bring in the 4x4 and they will hold it like to get maximum level out of it. So they'll hold it like this. So they're looking for the sun to come down here, hit this thing, and then bounce back up. Well, you get this weird nose blend thing that starts happening. It looks horrendous. So I always say, just hold it over the person's eye line, right? Like if they're walking this way, if you hold it like this, right, over the eye line, maybe not at that steep an angle, but just catching light straight up like this, and the sun goes like this, then at least you're not getting that nose shadow. The other thing is, I wouldn't fill from this side, right? So if this line is going straight through this guy's chest, right in the middle of his chest, we don't want to fill from this side. We want to fill from this other side. We want to be walking right in front and angling the board, the 4x, if it has to be 4x. If you're in a good place with crew and equipment, this would be like an 8x8 or basically the biggest that you can get away with. You could roll a 12x12 in front of this person. You're just looking for level this way so that maybe you're hitting this side of the face, but really you're aiming for the other side of the face, and then hoping that some comes around so you still get this little shadow demarcation here. And again, if you negged here, it would be even more. But really, most of the work, I mean, I can't imagine any of that is happening in this shot. Most of the work is just being done through backlight, right? You put the sun in the right spot up here, and then you angle towards the darkness, angle towards the buildings, and look for these little edges on the things that you want to be attracted to, or the things that you want people to look at, these little tiny edges. Okay. Next we scroll, let's get to the scene that we actually wanted to shoot. You'll also notice in this commercial, really good job of framing, always making you feel like you're inside of these little interactions, or you're just spying on these little interactions by layering the images, shooting through things, looking at the corners of buildings, right? Much like the corner of the room, the more depth that you can create in this 2D space that we are watching this thing in, the more angles that we can see, the more depth we're gonna have. We go from here, saxophone, same with this shot, right? Normal walking shot. We've got layer there, we've got layer here, this wall going this way, this wall going this way, which creates some depth and light to dark. Then, the best part about this one, besides the framing, right? Framing, okay, layers, we got lots of extras going this way. She's dark because this is not her commercial, right? You take your tuba or whatever is in that thing, not a tuba, right? That's too small. What would that be? Like a saxophone, I guess. It's probably the case that we use for this one, right? Actually, that case is down there. Anyway, let's get back to the lighting. So we've got this is like key little trick for the framework and for just making your lighting seem natural or trick a lot of people into being natural, is that we always talk about lighting from the window that you don't see. So here we're lighting from this door, and that's creating this hot edge and this edge down her. And then we're wrapping around with something from inside, right? There's something from inside that is wrapping the level around this guy's face, right? That's not just the light from outside. Something is happening that is inside. So to blend those two, the best thing you can do is show a little bit of the window that you're faking the light from. Like if we showed this whole thing, you'd see the big 18K out the window that is lighting this thing, or the bounce or whatever it is, however they're getting level into this space, you'd see it. But if you just show a little sliver of the window and not the lamp itself, it makes it feel more seated in reality. It's like, oh, I understand. My eyes know. Well, this light is obviously coming from this window over here, right? It's just natural. That must be day pushing through here. So when you can, try and show a little bit of window. If you're in a situation like this, let them get a peek of what you're going for angle of light, and then it'll be a lot more believable. If this isn't here, if it's just dark there, it doesn't have the same effect. It also doesn't create another layer, right? You want to add dimension. You don't want to take it away by blocking things off. Even all the angles here, like in the background, all these things going this way, this wall over here. Not only is it messing with the lighting, doing our dark to light to dark to light edge, dark behind, all of those things. It's also the hiding our sources and motivating our sources. And then the hardest thing to do for cinematographers here in a situation like this is getting this wrap light right, getting this level here to feel natural and not lit. Because you can, 1% more can overcook it. It can really overdo it. So I would always say under, especially when you're on set and you're looking at a monitor and you can't quite tell. Maybe you flick on false color when no one's watching. You're just like, oh, false color. And then you just see, make sure that level is where you need it to be. Okay, we keep going. Again, this is another one with layers. Even though we're inside the car, like we're passing these people out the front of this building, we get here, you can still see this car. So it feels like there is a frame between us and the talent. It's like, oh. Also, montage ads, the best, because you don't have to worry about continuity all day long, right? We're just doing one shot here. Well, on the location scout or on the tech scout, you figure, okay, when is this building going to be in shadow and when is the sun going to be over here? Oh, it's only going to be there for 10 minutes. That's perfect. It's a montage ad. All we need is 10 minutes. We just need these people walking this way. It becomes so much easier picking out locations and doing the schedule when you're doing montage ads. This stuff all flat. This is another great one. So initially, we start the shot with this little wipe, right? That little tiny wipe of a body, right? Which is the first AD, just passing by the lens. They got nothing to do once they say action. So they wipe past the lens, and then the camera is ever so slightly moving forward. Really good movement in this commercial. A lot of the times in these types of commercials, you'll see the same push in over and over again, just really slow. So it always feels like, oh, I'm not watching an ad. I'm doing something productive. Like, look at me, I'm moving forward. Subconsciously, you don't even know it, but you're like, yeah, I'm getting stuff done. These people are getting stuff done. Like, this is good. But this one does a good job of mixing it up and still having that feeling of like, oh, I'm getting something done here. I'm getting accomplished. This is great for me. And good for these people too, because they're selling stuff. Anyway, this is a beautiful little scene here. We're peppering in layers. Again, making this big window dirty. Like, look at the little elements here. The art department on the day would have been going crazy. Look at this. Oh, it's so natural. And then we're shooting into a dark building, right? The sun is over here. And in these shots, this is good because, you could rig from the side if you wanted to use some big giant 20 by 12. You could put stands on the side of this and soften this up, and then you could determine how much level you wanted to bring from the ground. Because the lower the light is, the lower the angle on the light, the more flattering it's going to be. The higher up here, the sun is not going to be that flattering. So if you need to, you can always rig off of the buildings. That's one thing people forget sometimes is, in a shot like this, rig off of the buildings rather than just having the stands there. It could save time and resources and all sorts of stuff. So something to think about. Okay, let's get to the shot that we wanted to look at here, which is this one. First of all, we went crazy on the Resolve film grain here. Look at the grain in this shot, right? You see that? And then, boop, really, really grainy. I don't know if they lifted it that much, if it was, if they're running that late in the day. The other thing is to check out the shadow here. Shadow on this girl right here, and the coolness of the shot, like the overall blue coolness. And then get out here and holy green, right? We've gone green, and she is now in the full sun by, a couple of yards. She is inside of that shadow, and she's all lit up. So continuity, nobody cares. Lighting, nobody cares. The thing with a shot like this is you schedule the wide when the light is the best. Because in this particular shot, we can do a lot to this, right? We're in this world where we can do a lot. We can go overhead with something slightly bigger. We can light from the ground both ways, to bring up level. We can do lots of things here. The thing that we can't do probably is light this building. because in this shot, you know, you can see the level in the reflections. The sun is over here somewhere, right? You can tell from the shadows on the ground. The sun is over here somewhere behind this building, which is great because then it doesn't distract us. We don't have to compete against it. But it is hitting this building or hitting one of these buildings over here, and then it's coming back this way, which are these reflections here, right? And all of that yellow light which is the paint over here, is spilling back onto this building. Whereas here, when the shadow gets much longer, right? The shadow is now halfway over the car. Like they would have been rushing to get this shot, like, oh my God, as the DP watches this shadow just slowly creep, right? Because you thought, oh, we're gonna get it in 3 or 4 takes. And then 76 takes later, this shadow has moved ever so surely. And pretty soon you're gonna have to move the car, but you can't move this thing. So then you start asking the art department if they have anything that they can move this thing with. Like, should we start talking about it now? All the panic is happening behind as the director's like, okay, well, let's try a different one. Let's do an alt read on the line. And everyone's just like, no alts. Anyway, this one is great. Again, for a lot of different reasons here. We've got the interest of the shadow. We've got the backlit building. We've got some interest back there. But again, look at how we're looking at the buildings as they're running along the lines like this, creating depth and creating angles. Got a nice little shadow there. We got cool shadows on the ground going this way. Even on this thing, we're sort of looking at it on an angle, so not flat to camera. Same with the car. Like, make it feel three-dimensional by looking at the angle. Don't set up the car straight to camera and just like plonk. If it is flat to camera, it's going to look flat, and we don't want that. We want to create depth. And then, of course, the sun is in the perfect spot over here, creating this little angle. Now, in this shot, there's not really much you can do, right? If you schedule this at the wrong time, you're not going to fly an overhead in here and then park a couple of 18s over there and balance this thing. It's not going to work. You're just too wide, even for the biggest budgets, right? Maybe if you're on some crazy Batman kind of cash, but for mere mortals, this is not fixable. You have to, whatever you do, you have to accept that that's the look, whatever time you get there. So that's the scary one. Once we come in here, also notice how the noise is so much less. You know, like the crazy amounts of faux film grain here. Anyway, we do the grain. It's not in focus. Now it is. And for this one, you know, we can easily do some things, but you still get the benefit of all the fall off here. Nice little framing in the car running this way. This is still, you know, in a good spot. It's just all about scheduling and understanding that, well, with the wide, we can't really change much. So let's shoot that at the best possible time. And then if it does go over here, say the shadow made it all the way over here, we could always move the car. We're shooting so wide open, you can barely recognize where we are in relation to that building. We could be slightly further away. Like, we could move the car this way inside of the lot. So if we come back here, oops, that starts there. If we move the car, say the shadow is now here on the ground. Well, if we move the car this way on the lot, you know, we could still angle that way and not notice how far away we are, that anything has changed. We could still chase the shadow that way. So just a lot more flexibility in an angle like this. And still, you know, we still got sun over here, giving us our key, gives us this little tiny edge, and then darkness to camera. I mean, this is quite harsh. They don't have anything overhead to soften this up. It's just like rushing to get the next frame. And you see all the benefits of shooting into the shadow, right? The shooting into the shadow, it isn't just for people's faces. Oftentimes that's where we bring it up because it's the most obvious. But shooting into shadow is for everything. You want to shoot into the shadow of buildings, of backgrounds, of anything you can do, because then you're going to get the little outlines that make the interest, that create the contrast, that keep people interested in the images. So just a great looking little ad here, good scene. I mean, all of this stuff is good. This car stuff, I mean, we could go on forever. This is just beautiful car work, right? You got sun out of the shot. You're just balancing, or you're exposing for whatever this raw sun level is. And then you're filling over here with probably one of like a sky panel, like a S360 or something like that, or it used to be 4Ks that you would use for car stuff like this. You're just pushing light in this way. Again, from between the talent and the background is where you want to place that light, even here for this fill. So you get some shadow down here, and you see this transition across the arm. You want the sun over there. You want dark buildings in the background. You want to make sure the art department doesn't screw you up and get some horrible tint job on whatever car they're getting, right? Sometimes you can get like weird green tint that is horrendous. And this is just beautiful looking stuff. It's just, again, repeat again, again, again. You find yourself looking, there's the cell phone shot, right? That is the classic cell phone shot, holding it in the hand that is closest to the lamp and letting the light come over like that to just create this pocket of darkness so that the phone instantly pops. And then as we're looking into the background, we still see these angles even inside this car to help create the depth. So beautiful looking shot, this one. I really like that car one. We could do every single scene. It's a great looking ad. Well done to Jason and the whole team on it. And if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to check out the Patreon group. It's down below in the links, and that will do it. We will see you in the next one. Goodbye.